Hi, welcome to the December edition of the 3-Season Diet Challenge, your free monthly seasonal eating guide. I hope you guys are enjoying all the information that you're getting from our seasonal eating guide, the recipes from Emma Frisch, which I think have been wonderful. I hope you are all enjoying those. Here we are in December. Winter is definitely upon us, and there are definitely some things we have to think about as we move into the winter months, in particular in December. With the holidays around, there's going to be a lot of holiday food, coming, a lot of heavier and more rich foods, all of which are, perfectly organized because they are on the winter grocery list. If you look at the winter grocery list, you're going to see a lot of foods that help to balance Vata. Vata, the tastes that balance Vata are sweet, sour, and salty taste. Heavier foods, more oily foods will help to keep our Vata, our nervous system, our intestinal tract in balance. In the winter, it's a cold and dry time of the year, so nature's antidote is to give us a warmer, heavier, lubricating diet to protect us from that. One of the interesting things that we know is that the average American gets about 15 to 20 grams of fiber per day. The hunter-gatherers got about 100 grams of fiber per day. So they had 5 times more fiber in their diet than we do. And what's interesting is that the dietary fiber changes from season to season. Like everything changes from season to season. The microbes change from season to season. And the fiber that we get in the wintertime is more of the soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is fiber that is sort of slimy, like when you eat oatmeal. It's sort of a slimier kind of a dish than, say, fiber like lettuce or leafy greens, which are insoluble fibers, which are more appropriate in the summer months, right? When they're harvested. So this is a time of the year to think about more soluble fibers in your diet, which include things like, certain types of grains like oat or oat bran, which are very slimy. Nuts and seeds are also really good. Legumes and beans have lots of fiber. When you cook them, they get a little slimy, which is a beautiful source of soluble fiber. The beans have about, black beans, for example, have as much protein as red meat does. So a great source of protein, great source of fiber for the winter months, really, really important. Fruits are also loaded in fiber, even though they're not really on the seasonal grocery list. Pears being, of all the fruits, the slimiest, pears can be used, and they're sort of still here, depending on where you are. So they're still somewhat in season, and particularly because of their sweet and heavier and soluble fiber nature. So those are definitely available as well. One of the things we always think about this time of the year is increasing our protein and fat intake. Of course, the fats that we take in, we want to increase that. If we were living off the land, you would be, eating vegetables and leafy greens all winter, spring, and summer. And then come winter, when there's nothing growing, you're probably going to have to hunt more and eat more fats, and as a result, more protein. More proteins. So that is an important understanding. And the proteins that let's talk about fats for a second. The fats that I like for us to eat are really, of course, the really good fats, not the processed fats or the cooked oils. Things like a little bit more ghee in your diet, or coconut oil in your diet, at least a teaspoon of ghee and a teaspoon of coconut in your diet, above and beyond what you get from maybe cooking with foods, is a good strategy to have to help increase your fat intake. Of course, now if you're having a bunch of sugar on top of that, that's going to be a bad recipe. So when I say eat more fats, that's a source of fuel. The other source of fuel is sugar. So if you're going to do sugar and fat, we're going to overshoot the energy runway. We're going to store the extra as fat, and that's going to be bad. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we have really very little or minimal amount of sugar in our diet, or sweets in our diet, and start thinking about getting satisfied from more of a traditional source of fuel, which is a very small amount of fat, believe it or not, goes a long way. Proteins, we want to increase the amount of proteins, but we still want to adhere to about only 10% of your diet being animal protein. If you look at the centenarians around the world, they all had they all ate a little bit of meat or animal protein, but it was always around 10%. So that doesn't mean you can't have more nuts and seeds. In studies, they show that people who ate more nuts and seeds, they actually had better cardiovascular health and better mental capacity and cognitive function. So you can have more nuts and seeds and more proteins in your diet, but try to keep your animal protein to about 10%, very important. Also, this is a time of year we want to think about fermented foods. It's the time of year where folks were trying to preserve their vegetables because they didn't starve throughout the winter. Cheeses, for example, that's just taking dairy and allowing it to culture and ferment and creating something that using what's called lactofermentation, the lactic acid would create a process where it would push away all the bad bacteria and you get something called cheese, which can last you through the winter and not go bad, which is a wonderful thing, kept a lot of cultures, maybe even all of us alive for thousands of years. So that's an important understanding of fermented foods. But again, fermented foods like kimchi and kombucha and olives and pickles and sauerkraut and things like that, they were always meant to be small portions, condiment portions, not a huge amount, not a 20-ounce jar of kombucha. Although, if you were really addicted to your kombucha, the winter would be the time to have a 20, I can't even say, I don't even think you should never eat that much of it. But the idea is that winter is the time we do need more acid in our body to strengthen our digestive system and to warm us up. And in the summertime, a hot pitta, fiery body type eating a 20-ounce bottle of kombucha for lunch would be a lot of acidity that could overshoot their runway and overheat them and create inflammation in their body or heartburn, irritability, things like that. And I've seen that happen many times. So the global idea with fermented foods is that they're more appropriate in the winter, and they absolutely are more appropriate in smaller quantities, or condiment style portions are important. The other thing is it's winter, it's cold and dry outside, so using your daily abhyanga, massaging yourself with oil is a great idea, because that actually coats your skin from the dryness, creates an oily protective coating. It soothes the sensory nerves, so it calms your nervous system down, calms your vata, so you feel more calm. That calm is perceived by the body on the inside, therefore life is not a full-blown emergency, which creates more stress, more vata, and derails the idea that winter is supposed to be more of a calming nervous system time of the year. Foods that are hard to digest on the winter diet are there. Wheat and dairy, for example, are on the winter grocery list, and they're in season right now. They're harvested in the fall for winter eating. So, for example, but dairy, you want to be thinking of VAT pasteurized dairy and non-homogenized dairy. Organic Valley now sells a cream on top milk product, which is great. Also, anytime you culture it into yogurt or cheese or sour cream, then the casein is broken down in that process. The lactose converts to lactic acid, so the lactose intolerance and the dairy intolerance are usually mitigated quite well by either eating non-homogenized VAT, low temperature pasteurization, and or yogurt or cheese or ferment or cultured milk type products are a really, really good idea. With regard to wheat, thinking about eating some bread, like an Ezekiel bread, sourdough, really good quality sourdough breads that basically say sourdough culture, wheat and salt and water should be the ingredients. Whenever you put more than that in bread, you're adding preservatives and cooked oils and things like that. And that's what you want to avoid. That's what raises the glycemic index and makes most breads more like sugar. So you want to be careful to do that. And of course, you don't need tons of it. It's small portions of the bread or the starch with the meal as part of a balanced meal. It's generally okay. If you have trouble with these foods, then you can learn more about how to start to digest these foods in some of the articles I've written about how to reboot your digestive strength. Okay, I think that's a good wrap up for December. I hope you enjoy the holidays, and we'll talk to you in January. Thanks for listening. Hi, did you like this video? Do you like our content here at LifeSpa? You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/John Douillard right here and get this valuable content every week in your inbox.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at lifespa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.